Coming up next is our much-awaited session on building an AI operating system for modern enterprises. Please welcome Subham Boundia, co-founder and CEO, Superleap; Soham Chokshi, co-founder and CEO, Shipsy; Gaurav Baheti, founder and CEO, Procol. This session is moderated by Sumita Kareer, deputy editor, ETNow. Let's have a huge round of applause for our panelists.
All right, thank you very much to Ty, and ladies and gentlemen, this is the last session of the day, but we'll try and make it as productive as possible. With me are very interesting young entrepreneurs, and let me introduce them once again. Subham Boundia is the co-founder and CEO of Superleap. Soham Chokshi, the co-founder and CEO of Shipsy. It's a trade and supply chain management company. And of course, Gaurav Baheti, the founder and CEO of Procol. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, this session is going to be focusing on enterprise AI, because AI, of course, is making giant strides. And of course, with it comes in complexity, especially when it comes to geopolitics and geoeconomics all around the globe. So what are the biggest mistakes that companies are making while deploying AI in enterprise AI? And because they also have the FOMO happening, are they making mistakes when it comes to deployment of AI across their companies and systems? So let me first start with you, Shubham. Tell us a bit about your company and how are you deploying AI?
Yeah, thanks, Sumita. So I run Superleap AI CRM. So we are a better CRM for modern enterprises. How we are deploying AI is building very useful applications for sales and revenue teams. The frontliners team who go out on the field selling, who calls you for your credit card, for your insurance renewals, who probably manages the accounts for B2B clients, etc. We power the entire operations using a bunch of AI applications at the core layer by bringing more data into the system, and then covering up with an intelligence layer so that the outcomes for the people who are using it, applications day on day, and the outcome for the end customers is much higher.
What about you, Soham?
No, thanks for having us here, Sumita. So, Shipsy, we are an enterprise AI company for the vertical of logistics. Logistics is a $10 trillion industry and pretty much the backbone of commerce. But it's still run on spreadsheets and desktop era software. With Shipsy, enterprises can drastically improve productivity and customer experience, thereby reducing costs and bringing in more visibility across the supply chain, specifically transportation and warehouse management. In times like these, especially with the war and the Strait of Hormuz, because things are just so manual, supply chains are taking a lot longer to adapt. But with AI, this can be a lot faster. Companies are able to adapt much faster and make decisions much faster.
That's very interesting in terms of, how you're correlating AI to creating efficiencies around shipments as far as the West Asia crisis is concerned. Gaurav, finally to you. Tell us a bit about your company and the deployment of AI within your company, and what are some of the use cases that you've seen really work when it comes to AI?
Thank you, Sumita, for that. My name is Gaurav. Thank you for having me. I run a startup called Procol. We are an enterprise transformation company for procurement and finance. We build AI agents for enterprises, large customers who manage $1 billion of spends to help them automate this, save cost and time. We have a large workforce based in a couple of offices now, but what we have seen is from top to bottom, we are seeing efficiencies across the board. I want to probably highlight a couple of areas where we saw some benefit. I think function-wise, the best one was engineering. I think AI coding is the most overutilized right now. If anyone here is adopting with the Anthropic, everyone knows how much benefit every single engineer is gaining out of it. On top of that, marketing, we see support, we see sales. But most importantly, we see now mid-level managers not being needed as much as before. because you have systems and data which you can run queries on, and you can get information access from real time from all different types of systems of record within a company. And that's what we tell our customers and enterprises as well. When we look at some of our customers, the procurement teams are between 1,000 to 2,000 people. And as the hierarchy grows up, it's just information asymmetry what enterprises are running on. And everything is on Excel and email, as Soham also rightly said. So we see this customer problem, and we see this personal problem as well. And AI is democratizing all the layers into a single agent. And I think that's the beauty of this era.
That sounds like an alarm bell as well in your statement that you made about the fact that some of the jobs or some of these tasks are getting automated by AI. But ladies and gentlemen, we'll come to that aspect in just a bit. But let me come back to you, Shubham. When it comes to the AI hype cycle, there's been a Mount Everest of hype around AI, from Silicon Valley to, of course, India, China as well, globally everywhere. Where are we in the AI hype cycle right now?
So I think we are right at the middle of it. India is the most emerging market for some of these very large AI frontier model companies like OpenAI, Anthropic. They're investing a lot in India. 11 Labs, the voice AI agent company, it's growing fastest in India. India is their second largest market after the US. So I would say India is literally at the center of it. However, the market of India will play out a little differently as to what we are seeing right now. There's a lot of application layer stuff which is happening right now in India, with some foundational stuff which is also being done. Because of how the market is in India, we are very value conscious. We value speed. We value cost a lot. So a lot of innovation will happen, and that innovation will happen from within rather than from outside. And I see any Indian founder right now building in AI should be very encouraged to do some foundational stuff. And if you can just nail a couple of problems very nicely, the first one, of course, being the cost part of it. The second one is the speed of deployment part of it also. I think this is the time to be building in India.
Right. This is the time to be building in India, but you spoke about two very important aspects, which is around cost and speed, and that is going to define, whether organizations and enterprises become successful, especially when it comes to the deployment of AI. But let me come to you, Soham, when we talk about ROI, because remember, 2023 was all about chatbots. The hype was building up. Last year we saw agentic AI, and this time around, I think if you heard conversations at Davos, everybody was talking about ROI. What is the ROI that an organization can get via AI? But so what is it that AI can sort of bring to an organization besides, of course, reduction in costs?
No, I think that's a great question. And I think firstly on the AI hype cycle also, I think India is extremely well positioned in terms of building applications around the foundational models and taking agents to the world right now. In terms of, you spoke about ROI, I think some of the best business cases are also the ones that can directly drive revenue outcomes and not just cost outcomes, right? And I'll give you an example, right? So if you look at logistics and specifically transportation, let's talk about a large logistics service provider that has a lot of drivers. Using AI to help drivers increase the number of shipments they do per day is actually a revenue outcome for the customer, right? Because the drivers can do a lot more. The drivers earn more, and the companies as well earn more, right? So I think, and similarly, there's things around, for example, now with the war, right? There's a lot of, I was just talking to one of our customers in Australia just yesterday. Because of this, the fuel prices, like Australia is a diesel economy, the diesel prices are up over 65%. Now this is huge, right? Now this means rewiring the entire way in which logistics happens. Governments are passing bills to see how, let's say, surcharges that the logistics provider is putting on the retailers can actually flow to the drivers as well. And there are hefty penalties. So now the business case is actually not as much on cost reduction, but how AI can help reduce or eliminate any penalties because of non-compliance. So I think the way to create business cases and the way to relate ROI is the key. And this is what defines if agents would be successful. I think the last thing I want to say is that on ROI, actually achieving the ROI, you have to start with one use case, right? I think the mistake that a lot of companies make is they make a very broad plan, 20 different agents, multiple different workflows, and everything reaches about 70, 75% accuracy, but that doesn't cut it, right? What we recommend is you have a phase-wise plan, you pick one, get it to 98%, and then go from there.
Right, that's an interesting point, and you want to make a point.
Yeah, I think Soham is bang right about that, and we are seeing something happening in sales and revenue as well. So what AI is actually doing, and we all know that India is a supply-extensive market, right? So what AI is also doing is forcing all of these suppliers of any product or service to level up their game. For example, insurance in India is always a mis-selling or kind of has a very bad name across the industry, right? And we serve a lot of insurance companies, and many of them tell us that it is not because we want to do that. It is because the training, because it's such a big document. Our salespeople are taking a long time to train. The economic value is not that much, and that's why this happens, right? In the age of AI, with a lot of deployments, pitch assist kind of deployments, and where the salesperson also is equipped to answer a lot more questions, and the end customer is also having so much visibility around a 50-pager or a 100-pager policy, it actually means that the market in itself is upping up their game, both in terms of selling and in terms of buying, right? So there, it ceases to be a cost reduction measure, and it actually becomes a value creation measures. And in India, the market is so competitive. If one of your suppliers is doing it, if AI is becoming a competitive edge for even one of your competitor, you are pretty much forced to adopt it, right? So I see this as a net win inside the industry to the betterment of the customers more than the suppliers right now.
Absolutely, and benefit for one company can, of course, be to the detriment of another, and which is why I think there is just so much of fight. There is a, race as to, how companies want to sort of deploy AI within their companies. But we'll talk about some of the pitfalls and some of the missteps that companies have taken, Gaurav. But let me also get in a perspective from you, especially when it comes to ROI and some of the interesting use cases. I mean, Soham was talking about how trade during geo-economic uncertainties, of course, the Strait of Hormuz, AI has created value for customers as well. But what about your company? What is it that clients are asking for? Because remember, up till now, it's been just about agents, it's about chatbots. But how far have you moved from that? What is it that you've experienced?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And every single enterprise CPO, CFO meeting I sit with, I think this is the only thing we discuss. I want to start with saying that procurement is actually where any of enterprises 80% spend goes, between 50 to 80%. Everything is a procurement spend. So the discussion we are having is very strategic with every single enterprise on how much bottom line impact and other strategic area efficiencies are we seeing on this 50 to 80% of the revenue of the company. And so when we look at this data, we find a couple of cases across enterprises we work with. The number one thing, especially in a scenario like this, is vendor discovery. We look at AI helping enterprises look into market in new supply sources fairly quickly and able to build resilient supply chains for that matter. On an average, Procol manages a few thousand suppliers for every enterprise. At scale, it could be as much as 100,000 suppliers for an enterprise. But what we see is they will have times when some of their key suppliers are defaulting, not being able to get to where they want. And so they are able to discover new suppliers really quickly. Second of all, we have built something which negotiates with vendors autonomously. So just on tactical and tail spend, we are seeing business cases where agents are the ones negotiating with suppliers below a threshold of dollar amount of the purchase order and contract.
So if agents are negotiating with suppliers, which is incredible, that intelligence is now getting into negotiating as well with clients, what are the challenges? What is the biggest challenge that you're facing on account of that?
Yeah, so we look at that data in the sense that procurement teams have been doing such negotiations since last few decades in these enterprises. And when we have that historical data for that enterprise, we are able to understand how much discounts do suppliers typically give and what strategy and rules of negotiation work for them. I'll just give you a simple anecdote. Negotiation is nothing but a strategy, rules around that strategy and execution of that strategy. And if you train an agent on different types of strategies of negotiation, for example, BAFO is one strategy, best and final offer. You train your agent on BAFO, you set the rules on, hey, how much can you negotiate, what can you do, what can you not do. You set the policy of how much is acceptable, what's ethical, not ethical, and then you let it execute. And we are seeing anywhere between 5 to 10% bottom line impact in such transactions. So these are some areas. Another big thing we are seeing is turnaround times. 80% reduction in how much time it would take to place an order versus before and after of agents doing it. Following up with vendors by calling them, talking to them that bids are pending, your prices are incorrect, your invoices don't match. All these things can be just sped up with AI. So,
oh my God, I can't believe that AI agents are now negotiating as well. And you know, that is one story that we should all be closely following as well. But let me come to you, Shubham. When we talk about, for instance, you know, AI agents, right? Where are we in that journey? Is the journey of AI about deploying AI agents, or is there more to the AI story?
No, so two parts to that question. First, where we are in the AI agents journey, I think there are three stages. One is an invisibility stage where a lot of agentic work is happening in the background. That means reading your emails, listening to your calls, transcribing things, building intelligence on top of it. The second one is the assist layer, where a lot of this intelligence is given to a human to act upon. And the third one is the autonomous layer, in which the agents act on behalf of you or your company or any other human and probably completes the task by themselves, right? I think right now we are at the assist layer. Autonomous layer is picking up very fast, like Gaurav mentioned about agents negotiating. I'm sure it still needs a human in the loop to finally sign a contract. There will be times, and not very far from now, when that layer also will be completely agentic driven.
And what will that look like?
I think that will look like agents on both sides, agents negotiating on both sides, both from a supplier and a customer's perspective. And both of them have been trained on their respective strategies, their respective minimum selling price, minimum accepting price, RFP, and whatever is the procedure for procurement, let's say in this case. And yeah, then the humans are coming in just like how a legal negotiation comes in, when a lawyer then goes to their CEO and says that, okay, no, we need to close this.
Right. Soham, you want to comment on that? You want to react to that?
Yeah, and all of us sitting at the beach and sipping a drink, maybe. I don't know when agent to agent.
No, but I think you can sip a drink, but what really happens to the rest of you know, the workforce?
Yeah, I think, look, at least the way we see it, agents are not taking up strategic tasks, right? I think it's the mundane tasks that will actually get autonomous first. We do see a clear use case where for anything that is strategic in nature, there is an element of relationship involved, right? As an example, we have two agents, right? So one on the customer experience side and the other on the vendor side. Now, the vendor side agent is taking up much faster because you would always want to ensure that for customers, it's more personalized. So I'll give you an example of, so we work with, say, Heineken, right? We deployed in Brazil. This is for, you know, let's say, for all the beverages that reach the stores, the entire supply chain, the primary, secondary logistics that manages it, right? Now, there are 200,000 trips every year. Now, this involves a lot of negotiation with vendors. Let's say a truck reached a brewery, but it missed the appointment. Now, is it cheaper to stay and pay additional fees, or is it cheaper to return? Now, historically, all of these were tickets that went to teams sitting centrally, trying to make a lot of these decisions. Now, they had deployed about 85 people to manage about 30,000 tickets around this that came every month. The problem was not that they had deployed 85 people. The problem was that despite having so many people, the turnaround time to actually resolve a query was north of 25 days. Now, that means dissatisfied vendors, and that means a poorer customer experience. Now, with agents, you can actually take about 90% of the decisions And the final approval layer that, okay, I need to pay this much is with the human in the loop. And then the people actually move to managing customer relationships, which is more strategic. So I think that's kind of how we're seeing it. I think even in procurement, Gaurav, I think what we are seeing is with AI, it's the smaller ticket items that will get automated so that people can actually focus on the big ticket negotiations.
Okay, and which is why skilling and reskilling in organizations is going to be key. It's going to be important from a workforce point of view as well. But Gaurav, let me ask you, because like we've discussed over the past couple of minutes, the AI hype is real. Everybody wants to sort of deploy AI, but I'm sure that founders and CIOs make some mistakes, especially when it comes to deploying AI in their organization. So how does one decide where to deploy AI and where not to deploy AI? What will yield returns versus what will not?
Yeah. Okay, so good question, Sumita. I want to address this because I was not one of the earliest adopters of AI in our organization.
What stopped you? Let's first address that.
I think the number one thing that stopped me was budgets. When we look at the token usage, we blew out our entire annual budget in 2 weeks. And as we started going on that journey, we realized the outcome we are deriving is actually the work that we could have also done without. Yeah, so I think the learning was very simple, that if we have to be on the forefront, we have to be putting out experiment and risk money to take big bets on tools and technology that the world is adopting. Without having a picture in place, you're always going to be a laggard in some sense. And so we then over-deployed in multiple areas, and 5 out of 10 worked exceptionally well, which over-delivered on every single return that we could imagine. I would see AI today, that's how I see, because if you overthink it, it's going to take away all your competitive advantage today.
But then there are budgets as well to be catered to.
Yeah, it's the starting point. I mean, if you have to be the forefront on the competitive edge, this is the way. You have to lead it by example.
One more thing that we're seeing actually is that token usage is actually now a perk when we talk about employee compensations, right? People actually ask, what are the limits that you have for token usage? And this is now a perk, right? And that's kind of how we look at it. I think $200 per person per month is good enough, right? But that's actually seen as a perk that helps us convert good people as well.
Right, and I'm given to understand that the time for this session is up, but I'll have to ask you all one final question before we wrap this up. And to each of you, while you've built great companies, there's a lot of buzz around your companies and of course how you do business, but how important is it from a startup point of view to have investors? For example, all three of you have been through Surge and Peak 15 as your partners, as investors that have supported you through your journey. How important is that to sort of take these kind of bets and bet on certain specific companies and to push you towards the next league, in the next league of growth?
So I think the biggest value add of having a good investor and good support board is to think big. In enterprise software, the trap is to think small, because literally a lot of workflows, a lot of rule books are rewritten as we speak. There are huge markets, hundreds of billions of dollars of market which is up for grabs. And for the first time, after the internet age, for the first time in the last 25 years, all of us have an opportunity to just go out there and grab that market. Enterprises are buying software from startups like us. That is a very, very big sign. All of us have very high ACVs, and I think that is what a very good investor brings to the board, to think big.
What about you?
Yeah, I think the number one thing that good quality investors add is the ability for us to experiment. To do something big, you must experiment. You try 10 different things. Most likely, 8 will fail, but the 2 that succeed will pay for themselves. So I think the ability to experiment is the one that's really helped us.
What about you, Gaurav?
Yeah, so in fact, I'll be specific about Peak 15, right? Because they hosted a couple of us founders in San Francisco in their immersion program in late February. And I think it starts with mindset and exposure of what good investors bring to the table. Exposure to founders, young founders, seasoned founders, operators. Everyone is adapting to a new world. And it's important to be close to a ecosystem which guides you and mentors you in that direction. And I truly believe that most of our investors and Peak 15 leads the way in that direction.
Okay, just one final. Okay, we have a gentleman over here who wants to ask a question.
Can you hear me properly?
Yeah.
Yes. Great discussion. So two parts to the question. It's a huge change in management for the employees who are undergoing AI. They feel their jobs are going to go. So how did you manage that thing that, okay, AI is going to help you, your jobs are not. So how did you manage the change part of it? Secondly, AI is changing at a rapid pace. So how do you keep up with the pace that the competition doesn't move ahead of you in terms of adopting AI?
So I think competition and establishing trust amongst your employees, who would like to take that?
I can take the first one. Second one, probably you can take. So the first question is, first of all, everybody has to be very secure, and as leaders of the organization, it's our job to make them secure that jobs will not be blatantly taken off because of AI. AI can help you become better, and I say this to my team, it's like the industrial revolution when machines came in and people do not had to manually build wheels. It didn't mean that the production, those people went out of job, they just found better jobs. Okay, it took some time to evolve, but they just found better jobs and the entire economy just benefited out of it. So we should probably think of it like an industrial revolution, like having machines, if the first set of machines into a factory, and just try to evolve around it and be very, very secure around it, because the fact of the matter is that I have not seen a single developer or a founder being out of business because of AI, but conversely, I have seen them work at least 2x more than what they were working before. People say that development has gone to AI, but every developer I know personally is working at least 2x more than what they were working pre-AI.
So I just have one anecdote to that. I think it's popularly now being called out as AI is not going to replace jobs, it's going to replace people who don't adopt AI.
Okay, but
Yep. I think, see, the reality though is that the nature of talent needed to succeed in an AI first world is changing, right? And I think the point about reskilling is real. So how we do it at Shipsy is very simple. We have a boot camp, not just for new people, even for existing people. It's a clear 4-week program, and we call it 10x with AI, where we actually train everyone. It's like kind of how the shop floors used to work, where we actually show people how they can use these tools to become a 10x version of themselves, right? And I think, see, most people cross that line, and I think showing this helps, right? And I think to your point on velocity, I think that's the single biggest moat today. Moving fast is what keeps companies relevant and ahead, right? And I think the way we look at it is that in every conversation, it's not about how you can be perfect, but how you can ship the thing that is most relevant, but do it extremely fast.
doing
All
it
right.
fast and doing it right. Well, I think, I hope, sir, that answers your question. I'm going to be asking the moderator if we have some more time for a couple of questions
So
from the
I
audience.
think the panelists will be available offline, and please feel free to speak to them.
All right.
Let's do
Thank you
that.
very much, gentlemen. It was a pleasure moderating this session, and thank you all for very patiently listening to us. And I did hope that it yielded some very productive insights on AI and the deployment of AI in enterprises and companies. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
All
Sumita.
three of you.
Thank you, Sumita, and thank you, everyone. We'd like to present the panelists with a small token of appreciation. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been a phenomenal day today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. For anyone who's not a member yet, please become a part of the family. For more details, you can visit the registration desk or connect with our staff members.